Hey, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the MYTHOS treble bleed circuit. So this is kind of a particularly nerdy video, but a treble bleed circuit really changes how the guitar interacts with anything after it, and especially as you roll down the guitar's volume knob. I'm a huge proponent of riding your volume to really get those dynamics of gain stages, of volume, and it changes the tone, as you roll down the volume. Now, typically without a treble bleed circuit, not always, but most of the time, you are going to get a much darker sound as you roll down the volume. And particularly with more classic guitars, going from 10 to 9, you get a huge dip in volume and a massive dip in high end. So what a treble bleed circuit does is allows you to retain that high end throughout the sweep of the volume knob as you roll it off. Now, this is what a typical treble bleed circuit looks like. Cover my eyes here. And it is a resistor and a capacitor wired together. Now, the cool thing about the MYTHOS treble bleed circuit, cover my eyes again, is that you've got these dip switches and you've got several variations of different kinds of treble bleed circuits. Now, just like any treble bleed, you wire it between the second and third lug of your volume knob. And if you have two volumes, you will have to have one for each volume knob. I used a Strat for this demo because you've got a singular volume knob for all three pickups. Now, that standard treble bleed circuit that I just showed you actually came out of the guitar that we kind of temporarily installed the MYTHOS treble bleed circuit in today, because it's in there all the time. I use a treble bleed circuit on a lot of my guitars, not all of them, but it definitely changes the interaction of my pedals, of anything that comes after the guitar. So I'm going to show you a quick clip of installing the MYTHOS treble bleed circuit. It's very easy to install even for a total amateur when it comes to soldering. You're only soldering 2 points here. They provide the wires. There's a great diagram on MYTHOS website. When you go to the treble bleed circuit, it shows you how to install it on the second and third lugs of your volume knob, and also what the variations of the dip switches, what they're doing, and kind of the names for them. I'll also have those up on the screen as we do the demo. Okay, so here is the MYTHOS treble bleed, and we'll just do a little unboxing here. Okay, so they give you, actually, let me make sure, because I want to go with any directions that they give, which is none. Okay. So this is what you get. You get a couple lead wires. And the treble bleed circuit here. I don't know if I can zoom in on that. So a traditional treble bleed is a capacitor and a resistor, and it looks something like this. And what this MYTHOS one allows you to do is you've got a bunch of dip switches. You've got 4 dip switches, and different combinations allow different types of resistance, or actually what it's doing is letting treble through, and it's going to give you and yield different results, especially with different pedals. So I'm going to be installing this on my burnt Strat here, and what I'm going to do is wire this to where we can access it and be able to change the different settings on this treble bleed. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen the strings and take the pick guard off. So if you can see right here, over where the volume pot is, this is a traditional treble bleed. You've got a capacitor and a resistor. So we're going to take that out, and essentially we're going to be putting this to replace it. So there is the traditional treble bleed circuit. We're going to take that out for now. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder these wires here to the two terminals, and then put that on these two lugs of the volume pot. Okay, so now that we have these soldered, what I'm going to do is repeat the process on these lugs. Lugs 2 and 3 on the volume pot. Alright, so what I've done here is just kind of taken a chunk out of the pick guard to allow for these wires to stick through, just for the purposes of this demo. This is by no means the intention of how to use this. This is just so that I can swap between the settings in real time. So I've put most of the screws back on, and I'm going to tune it up, and then the reason why I've left some screws out is because after we go through all the sounds of the treble bleed circuit, I'm going to remove it so you can hear what it's like with no treble bleed, and just kind of hear the differences between them, also versus no treble bleed circuit. Okay, so treble bleeds aren't for everyone, and they're not going to sound great through every setting here. I've got my fly rig, and we've got a mini fuzz by Kingtone, a Centura, Klon Clone, a TS808, a Love Pedal Kanji, my favorite drive pedal, and a T-Rex Mudhoney distortion. So we've got a good combination of overdrives and distortions here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the neck pickup and then go to the bridge pickup. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to dial back the volume and roll it down to about the same place for each setting. I've got it to where the pickup screw for my bridge pickup kind of points towards the 10 on the volume knob. So I'll go from 10 down to 7, and then maybe down to like 4 for each setting. And I'm going to try to play something similar, and we're going to play this both with the MYTHOS treble bleed circuit and without. And like I said, it's not going to sound great through every setting. Some pedals and combinations of guitars, pickups, pedals, and amps like treble bleed, some of them don't, and that's all up to your ears. So the cool thing about this MYTHOS treble bleed circuit is it allows you to play with different combinations and different variations on a treble bleed circuit. I'm also going to remove this and so you can hear the guitar with these comparisons without a treble bleed circuit as well. It's going to be a little tedious going through each of these settings, but basically I'm going into my PRS Amps 30 head, which is EL84 kind of chimey type of head. It's set fairly clean, and when you roll back on a treble bleed circuit on the volume knob, that's really where they shine. So that's why I'm going to kind of try to tedious in when I roll back and try to make them similar. And I'm just going to note here, I don't have any other pedals on except for the one at a time with the drives. So I don't know what you heard, what variation of the treble bleed circuit was your favorite. I think that I tended towards the Berg or the JS treble bleed circuit. It seemed to interact, especially with the fuzz. That was the one that was most revealing on how much high end is being let through, because especially fuzz face circuits, as you roll back, even without any treble bleed circuit, it's going to get a lot cleaner than even with the pedal off. It's got a very brilliant, sparkly, crystal clean cleanup as you roll down the volume. With the treble bleed circuit, some fuzzes don't like that, and you could hear that some of these settings were particularly harsh. But that's just to my ears. Maybe that's exactly the sound that you're going for. And how they interacted with the other overdrives was also kind of unique, but it's a little more subtle than the fuzz. The other thing to note is that some of the settings, when the volume on 10, there was a certain high end and loudness level. And then when you go to like 9.5, it actually jumps up in volume and gives a little more mids back into the circuit before coming down. That was only with a few of the settings, and that also, is going to depend on what kind of taper pot you have, what value pot you have. That's going to affect all of these things as well. But overall, this is a pretty plain demo that should be pretty revealing, at least on the differences in this setting between these treble bleed circuits and without a treble bleed circuit installed. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, please ask that you like and subscribe. Share this channel with other gear nerds. Like I said, This is a particularly nerdy video compared to some of my others, but it's a fun experiment and it's a great rabbit hole to go down, just as far as having the guitar that you already own, the pedals and the amp that you already own, and this totally changes that interaction and the feedback kind of between your guitar and your pedals, and then the pedals and the amp, and rolling off that volume knob. You can check out the MYTHOS treble bleed circuit on their website. I'll link to it down in the description below. Also, if you would like me to write you a custom song, I will write and record the song for you, and there's a link down to my Songfinch profile in the description as well. Until next time, I've been Colin.